In this lesson, we'll block in the arm shape and connect it up to the shoulder. So we know the arm probably is going to be a cylinder shape, so let's go ahead and bring in a cylinder. And then let's bring it up and kind of into position. So I can take the length down a little bit. Let's take the radius down quite a bit. We'll just use these images as a guide. And we're kind of looking at this actually from the other side. So this is actually, if we pull this over to match up with the geometry we have, it's actually going to be his left side. But that's okay. We just need the profile of it. So we want to, where we're going to connect this up, and it's going to be these 4 polygons. So if we look at this, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 going around the perimeter of this. And so let's change our cylinder to have that number of rotation segments. 8's a good number if you want to get something that's going to smooth, but you want it to be low enough where you can deal with it. And so we'll change that to 8. Let's go ahead and let's kind of rotate this a little bit. Now we can't bend the arm yet at all because we don't have any resolution in there. So we'll get that kind of in position, and let's add, we'll take off the caps and let's add a few height segments. So 1, 2, maybe 3 will give us enough to start from, and then we can add geometry manually if we need to. So let's go ahead and make this editable. Now at this point, I'm going to grab some of these points. So let's say that this is going to be our elbow. So we'll get it kind of in the right spot. And I'm just going to move, or we can also rotate these around a little bit. And we're at a low enough resolution that we can do this and not really affect too much. I mean, we're just working with very few points. If we're working with something that is much higher resolution, then it's very easy for it to get out of control. But here, it's pretty hard to get into a spot where you can't fix it just by kind of moving some points around. So we'll kind of pull this forward a little bit. Let's grab this, and the arm that we have is very stylized, so it's going to be actually get a bit larger as it goes out to the wrist. Let me go ahead and select that wrist and scale it down a little bit. Let's also take the elbow, scale that down a little bit. And again, just kind of working from both angles here. We'll scale down his upper arm and kind of move that. And then this part, this is where we want to start to be able to connect this up. So I'm going to rotate it so that it matches up with that opening a little bit more. So we'll kind of bring this over, maybe rotate it a bit more like that, just so it's kind of facing the right direction. Okay, so we get something like that. Now to connect it up, we need to do a couple of things. We need to make both of these pieces part of the same piece of geometry. So right now they're 2 separate pieces. We need to combine them together. So to do that, we'll select both of them, shift click on both of them, right click, and let's say connect objects and delete. That'll get rid of the original 2 and give us 1 object here. Now we can go to our polygon tool, select those faces, and let's just delete those. Let's also optimize our points. And now we have an area that we can connect up. So let's go to our edge selection. And you can see, if I click on this, I'm just kind of clicking on one. But if I go to select loop selection, then I need to come down here and say select boundary loop. And I can select that loop and this loop. And then we can do that stitch and sew, shift click across. and that'll sort of connect it up just like that. Now it's going to take a little bit of sort of smoothing this out. Okay, we'll kind of select those edges and let's kind of pull them in to the body a little bit. Maybe scale them out a little. Now if we're going to be animating this, we do probably want to have a little bit more resolution in here to be able to deform properly. Let me kind of pull this out. And you can see there's some sort of weirdness here. All we need to do is go to faces and let's do a align normals. That'll fix that up. And then we can go to the knife, add a loop right in there. Let's maybe take this loop. We go to a loop selection and turn off boundary loop. We'll take that loop and just bring it down a little bit. Let's also add some more resolution around the elbow because that's going to be bending as well. So add one in there. And let's add a couple of lines down there. Okay, another way to add resolution is if you have one line here, let's go to loop selection. If we have this line here, we want to actually make that into two. You can also just do a bevel, and that'll smoothly change that one edge into two. Okay, and then you can come back into your side and front views and match up the geometry a little bit more. But that gives us our arm connected into the body. So the next thing that we want to do is start to build the hand. So let's do that next.